Hi, Steve from Steve's Makerspace. We are in p5.js. In a recent video, we coded this together, and I want to change this into this thing. And I can change this to, let's say, 11 of these, or I could do 7. Getting different color schemes, we're getting different amounts of mandalas. I can save a JPEG if I want to keep this piece of art. We'll be improving the petals on this. We'll make it so that the available space is all filled up. For the multiple mandalas, we'll be using the push and pop functions. For the color, we'll be filling an array and picking from that array. And we'll also have a range of colors so we get some nice monochromaticism. If you don't want to do the coding, but you just want to play with this thing, code is in the description. You can play with this in your browser. And if you just like that I made this thing, you can give the video a thumbs up. So if you're interested in all of that, stick around. So I'm not going to go over the details of this because I already have a video on that. If you want to know how this was done, then go watch that video. I'll have a link in the description. I also have a link to this code in the description if you want to get started with this code. So first I'm going to do file duplicate. And the first thing I want to do is fix this. I had hard keyed some numbers in here, 185, 230, and this was because I had a canvas set at 500, but I'm going to want to have different sized canvases based on however much screen the user has available to them. So I'm going to change these to percentages basically instead of these hard keyed numbers. This 205 here is really 82% of the radius, 205 divided by 250. So another way I could represent the same thing is by doing 0.82 times 250. And I could do that for all of these, put a percentage times 250 for each of these. But if I'm going to do that to each one, I'm already multiplying by ly. So why not just multiply this by 250? Then I just have to update the rest of these to percentages. So let me do that real quick. While I'm doing this, I'm going to improve on where these numbers are because I wasn't really happy with where I decided to put these numbers. And I'll show you what I've got when I'm done, or you can just go copy the code. There's a link to this code in the video description. This is Steve from a little bit in the future. I couldn't help but continued messing with these numbers to get the petals just the way I like them. So here are the final numbers. The rest of this video is using some older numbers, so the mandalas might look a little bit different. So this works. This ly, I had made this variable last time having to do with the layers, but you know, this is really about whatever the current radius is. So let's just rename this so it's more clear what this is. So we'll do a find and replace, find ly in here, and replace it with, how about curr, current radius. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up, and that still works. Good. Next step. Let's change it so that it's not a set canvas size, but that we can change the canvas size to whatever we want. We're first going to find out how much space we have on our canvas. And we need to do this before we create the canvas. Let's do a new variable, let max size equal the minimum of the window width and the window height. So it's going to look at the available space we have, the window width and the window height, and take whichever of those two has the least amount of space, and that will be the size of our canvas, and then we can fill the canvas with that max size for both the width and the height. So this should still work. There we go. Now it's going all the way to the edge. I think I would like to give it a little more space. Let's just subtract 20 from here, and that just gives me a little cushion on the side. So now I should be able to reduce my canvas size and hit start. And there we go. It still fills that space. Now my petals aren't cooperating anymore when I do this, unfortunately. because I've still got those numbers hard keyed below, but I can fix that now. So we're going to fix that by first coming up with the maximum radius of this pedal. And I've got translate width divided by 2 right now. Just for now, let's make R max equal the width divided by 2. And now I can translate to R max, comma R max. It'll still do the same thing. My pedals are still not fixed yet, but we're going to fix that in a minute. So I've got it multiplying by 240 here, so we're going to change that now to R max. And there we go, our pedals are fixed. So this is with a small canvas. I'll make the canvas larger, and now the pedals still fit. There we go. Now let's say we want this thing to appear in the top left corner. What we can do now is just say divide by 2 again, and there we go. We got a small mandala in the top left corner just by doing that. Now, what this 2 here represents is how many mandalas I'm going to have in a row. So we can give that a number. Let's say let num equal 2. And then we'll replace this with num. Same thing. But we want to have 4 of these things. How do we do that? We need a nested for loop, because we're going to have 1 loop for the rows and 1 loop for the columns. So we're going to add those new for loops above this for loop. Let's use m and n for these for loops. So we've got our 2 for loops and we need to close them off. We're going to go down to the bottom of this for loop and we're going to add 2 more close brackets. And let's see what happens. This isn't going to work. All right, so we only see 1. That's okay, because we haven't actually done anything extra. What we need to do next is to translate, because we've only translated once. I can move this down to here, and we'll hit start. Now we get something kind of weird. Because it's translating multiple times, what we need here is a push and a pop function. This is an example I wanted to show to explain about push and pop. So in this example, I'm translating and rotating a square, and then I do that again and again and again. Each time it's changing where the X and Y axis is and where 0, 0 is. So if I add some lines to represent the X and Y axis, you'll see that the X and Y axis keeps changing, so the canvas is rotating. But this is using push and pop. Every time I do pop, I'm moving the 0, 0 coordinate back to the top left, and I'm straightening things out. If I don't do pop, let's get rid of that, this is what happens. So the first time it translates, 0, 0 is here, and then it translates again from this position to here, and then it translates again from that position to here. So by doing the pop, we're basically resetting things to the way they started with. So we're going to push here, and then at the end, I can't remember which one we're popping. All right, we're still getting weird stuff, but that's okay, because we need to change our translate. We're translating based on the R max, but what we need to be translating is based on this M and this N. So we've got 2 is our number across. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to translate width divided by that number. The M is our columns, basically. We need to translate to the width divided by the number of mandalas we want and multiplied by the M, because the M represents what column we're on. So let's translate to width divided by num multiplied by M. And then the height is the same. We're translating to the height divided by num multiplied, this time by n, because that's which row we're on. Well, I still don't think it's going to work, but let's see how this does. No, not working. This is still way up here in the corner. What we need to do is we need to add a little bit more, because we want this to be over here. Let's add width divided by number divided by 2. Yes, and then we need to add height divided by number divided by 2. All right, we've got that back in the right place. I think I've got this pop way too late. Let me try moving it up. If I put it here, I don't know. Where am I supposed to put it? Oh, there it is. I got it. I was putting the pop in the wrong place. All right, now I got it. Great. Now, I think I can just change this to 3. And there we go. We did it. So, we've got this accomplished. Let's do an easy thing next. We can add a key press so that we can save the art as a JPEG. So let's go to the bottom of the code to add that in. And we can add that as a completely separate function. And we say if key equals, which I know is kind of weird. We'll use the S key and we'll say save my canvas dot JPEG, and that is it, I think. Let me hit start. No, what's going on? I forgot to put function. I started doing the if statement without actually doing the function. Typed, and then we open up the function, and then we have 2 brackets. So let's see if that worked. And I think I need to press on the canvas first, and now I'll hit S. And there we go. It just saved a JPEG. I can open up that file, and there's my JPEG. Very good. Now, the other thing we can do is, so that I don't have to keep hitting start button every time I want new art, we could add another key so that it restarts the setup. So let's do that real quick. If key equals equal n for new, then go to setup, start it, and I'll click on the canvas and we'll hit N for new, and there we go. We got new art. I'll just hit N. Next, let's make it so that instead of just complete random colors, we get some monochromaticism in here. Now there are a number of things we could do. We could have a table in a separate file of some color palettes. And I did that. If you look at my previous video on color in p5.js for art, I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. I describe different things you could do with color. But for this one, we are just going to fill an array. So let's do that above this M and N. Let me first add a little memo here. Bottom right, so I know what this code is about. And then this code. So let's figure out how many colors we want. Let the number of colors equal, and we'll make a random. Let's say between 4 and 10 colors. We need to set up our array. So let's call it a palette, and we just need to do that. And then we're going to have a color. The way I want to fill this array, let's see, I converted to HSB and I've got 360 here. So I want to look at that 360 degree hue color wheel and fill the palette with even distribution across that color wheel so that I don't get 2 different reds that are really close together in my palette. I want the colors to be kind of far apart from each other. The first color can be random. Let me think about this. We're going to push colors into the array, but we can start anywhere in that 360. So let's start by saying let color equal random 360. And then we need a for loop to fill the array. So let's do, I don't know, let's use p this time. Let p equal 0. P is less than the number of colors. P++, and close parentheses. And then in here, we are going to push into the array the color. Then we're going to add. We want color equals color plus the num color. No, is the num colors? Color equals color plus 360 divided by num color. I think that's right. So then, but what if when you add, let's say you started with 340 was your random pick up here. So if we add to that we're going to go past 360 right away, and that's going to be a problem. So we need to check and see if we're past 360. So if color is greater than 360, or really greater than 359, then we want to say the color. Now we could say color equals 0, but that wouldn't completely give me an even distribution. What we really want to do is say color equals color minus 360. I think we've got it where it's going to fill the color array. It's not going to do anything with the colors yet, but let's just make sure it still works. Okay, I'm not getting any errors. Good. So right now we're just picking the hue at random. Let's just get rid of that right now. And instead, we'll say let the hue equal, we need to pick something from the palette. And we want a number from here. Our palette is the length of num colors. So if we do random, do num colors, except we can't just do random because that will return decimals, and the position in the array is a whole number. So we need to round this. I think that works. Let's see if that worked. Okay, let's reduce the number of colors we're using. So we should have 4 colors. That's 5 colors. Oh, I see. I'm starting with 0 and I'm going to 5. That's putting in, instead of putting in 4 colors, I'm putting in 5. That's what's going on. I need to subtract 1 from this. So that should be actually 4 colors. So that is giving me my color palette. Let's make that 4 and 8. So that is working, but I wanted to do one more thing with this, which was to give it a range so that we get more monochromaticism. So we're going to add one more variable. We'll say let range equal 250. And so this is a color range. So now instead of 360, I'm going to put range here. Let me think. If I go past 359, then I'm going to do color equals color minus the range. Is that all I need to do? Let me see. Yeah, let's make the range a little smaller. Let's just do 100, and we get all greens. Here's all blues. There's all reds. Very good. 360 divided by 2 is 180. So if we wanted half the color wheel, here is half of the color wheel being used. And I think I want a little bit more than that. I played with this some, and I think 250 is a nice range. Now here I'm doing petals random 8 to 40. If I were to do 7 of these, I don't really need these to be that complex, to have a huge amount of petals or a huge amount of layers. First, let's start with a smaller number here. Let's say just go up to 35, but then we'll also subtract by the number across. That way, if we increase the number of mandalas we're drawing, it will decrease the number of layers and the number of petals. So you can see this still looks quite complicated. And we can go back to 1, and that's just fine. One thing that you may notice here is that we have all of the same number of petals on all of these. What we can do is just move this, all 3 of these. Yeah, we'll move them down into this section here. And that should give us a variety of petals and layers. There we go. And of course we could play with some of these here, saturation, brightness, alpha. The one thing I kind of like, we can make the saturation high and make the alpha low. That gives you some nice complexity. If you've got lots of layers, this way you can see the color shining through better. But whatever you want to do, if you wanted this to be looking more uniform, you could round this and the petals will look more uniform. I don't care for it to be as uniform as this, so we'll take that back out. So we get some spiraling when we do that, so I kind of like that. And let's see how hard we can push this thing. So if I'm going to switch this to 20 petals. There we go. So that is pretty intense. Let's hit N for new, N for new, and my computer is starting to whir on me. It's working a little bit harder now. Let's let my computer not work so hard. We'll go back to 10. We'll hit S for save. We got our JPEG, and we can stick that on our wall. That is everything I wanted to go over with you. So links are in the description, and here I am back from the future with the final product. Here's what the new mandalas look like. There's what 20 of them look like. So if you've liked this video, please give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Comments are always welcome. If you see anything I did wrong or could it be improved, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Steve's Makerspace.